My name is Lindsay Layla, and I am 29 years old, and for years my family loved to call me a failure because I lived in a rented apartment. They didn't say it once. They said it every holiday, every family gathering, every dinner where the conversation circled back to success like it was a competition I'd already lost. My parents said it with disappointment sharpened into insult. My two older brothers said it with laughter, and I learned early that I was the punchline. Adam and Jake had bought houses years ago. Adam lived in a sprawling suburban place with a pool and a home gym. Jake had a sleek modern house with floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture that looked like it came straight out of a magazine. And then there was me, the youngest, the disappointment. Still renting like I hadn't figured life out yet. They joked openly about it. My dad would sigh and shake his head. My mom would say she was just worried about me, in that tone that felt more like judgment than concern. Adam joked that I'd probably rent forever. Jake would grin and nod like it was settled fact. But when they needed something, everything changed. Suddenly, I was worth calling. Fixing Wi-Fi, rides to the airport, money for something urgent, help covering a shortfall. I saw it clearly, even when I didn't say it out loud. I knew exactly what role I played. I didn't argue. I didn't fight back. I let them talk, because while they were talking, I was doing something they never expected. I was saving, quietly, relentlessly. I skipped expensive nights out. I drove the same car year after year. I lived small while they showed off renovations, furniture upgrades, backyard improvements. They thought I was stuck. They thought I was falling behind. What they didn't realize was that I was waiting. And then I bought my house. Not just any house. My dream house. Modern, open, high ceilings, a kitchen big enough to actually live in, and a backyard that felt like freedom. A place where I could picture summer evenings on the deck, watching the sun go down, finally at peace. No landlord, no rent due, no one hovering over me. And most importantly, no one to ask permission. I didn't tell my family. I wanted them to see it for themselves. So I sent one simple message to the family group chat. Housewarming party at my new place. I want everyone there. Chaos erupted instantly. My mom called within seconds, demanding to know what new place I was talking about. I told her she'd see when she got there. She pressed again. I repeated myself. On the day of the party, I stood outside and waited. I heard the cars before I saw them. My parents arrived first, stepping out slowly, scanning the street like they expected a rundown shack. Adam and Jake arrived next, exchanging amused glances like this was some elaborate joke. Then they saw the house, and everything stopped. No one moved. No one spoke. Their eyes darted over the wide driveway, the clean lines, the immaculate lawn, the modern windows catching the light. My mother raised a hand to her mouth. My dad frowned, confused. Adam blinked. Jake muttered, "No way." I let the silence stretch before I spoke. "So are you coming in or what?" They walked inside like people entering a museum they didn't believe existed. Every step was careful, hesitant, like the floor might disappear under them if they moved too fast. I watched their faces as they took in the space, the open kitchen, the high ceilings, the clean lines that didn't scream for approval. Room by room, the same expression followed them. Disbelief first, then calculation. My father ran his hand along the kitchen counter like he was checking if it was real. "You bought this," he said, not quite a question. "Yes," I replied. "How?" my mother whispered. I shrugged and said I saved. They didn't understand that answer. They never had. Saving didn't fit their version of success. Showing off did. Adam opened cabinets. Jake stepped out back and stared at the yard like it had personally offended him. When we sat down to eat, the air felt different. No jokes, no sighs, no comments about renting, just forced admiration that didn't quite know where to land. My dad nodded stiffly and said I did good. My mom hugged me and said she was proud. Adam admitted the house was incredible. Jake added that it looked expensive. When they left, they waved and smiled. My mom said the house looked good on me. For the first time in my life, I had the upper hand. I should have known it wouldn't last. A week later, the novelty wore off, and entitlement rushed back in to fill the space. I was finally settling into my routine, waking up without rent anxiety, enjoying the silence that came with ownership. That Saturday morning, I was making coffee when I heard it. the deep rumble of a moving truck. I stepped outside, mug in hand, and froze. A white truck sat in my driveway. My driveway. Then my parents' car pulled up. My mom waved like this was a surprise party thrown in my honor. My dad was already at the back of the truck, talking to the movers. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice flat. My mom smiled brightly and said they were moving in. Just like that. My dad clapped his hands and said it made the most sense. The house was huge, more than enough room. They didn't want to keep up their old place anymore. I laughed once, short and stunned, and told them no. My mom frowned, confused why I wasn't playing along. "Why would we joke?" she asked. "Families should be together." I told them to sell their house and get an apartment. She waved it off. "Why would we do that when you have all this space?" That's when my stomach dropped. "We sold the house," my dad said. "Closed yesterday. We got a great price. I asked where they planned to live if I said no." My mother smiled sweetly and said I wouldn't say no. Something in me snapped. I told the movers to stop. My dad told them to keep going. I stepped in front of the dolly and said stop again. When my dad pulled out his phone to call a locksmith, I grabbed it from his hand and asked if he'd lost his mind. He said they needed keys, that this was their house too. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was unbelievable. I called the police. When the officers arrived, my parents played confused victims. The officer asked who owned the house. I did. He asked if I invited them to move in. I said no. He asked if I wanted them removed. I said yes. My mother gasped like I'd committed a crime. The movers loaded the truck back up. My parents left in silence. My mom crying, my dad staring straight ahead. I locked the door behind me. For the first time, the house really felt like mine. I should have known it wasn't over. Peace never lasts when people believe they're entitled to what you've built. The next morning, I woke up to my phone vibrating nonstop. Missed calls stacked so high I had to scroll. Texts poured in faster than I could read them. The family group chat was on fire. Adam's name was everywhere. Jake's, too. My parents hadn't even bothered to type. They let my brothers do the yelling for them. Adam's message hit first. "Are you out of your mind?" Jake followed right after. "Mom is crying. Dad is furious." Then my mother finally chimed in with a string of crying emojis and one sentence that made my jaw clench. "We're homeless because of you." Homeless. Right. As if selling their house without asking me and assuming they could move into mine was somehow my fault. Before I could even process it, my phone rang. Adam. I sighed and answered. "What?" "Don't what me," he snapped. "What the hell is wrong with you? You actually called the police on Mom and Dad." I sat up in bed and rubbed my face. They tried to move into my house without asking. They sold theirs without telling me. Dad tried to change my locks. What exactly was I supposed to do? Adam scoffed. "Anything but that. You made them look like criminals." I laughed, sharp and tired. They acted like criminals. He told me I could have let them stay, helped them find a place, been reasonable. That's when something clicked. I asked him where he was in all this. If he was so worried, why didn't they move in with him? Silence. Long, uncomfortable silence. I smiled. "They didn't even ask you, did they?" He snapped back that it wasn't the point. I told him that was exactly the point. They came to me because they thought I'd fold, because I always had. He tried the guilt angle next. Family doesn't do this to family. I reminded him family also doesn't sell their house and show up with a moving truck unannounced. Then he went for the classic move. "Grandma would be ashamed of you." I laughed again, this time without holding back. Grandma hated Dad. She gave her house to Aunt Linda just so he wouldn't get it. Adam swore under his breath. "Don't expect us to forget this," he said. I told him I wasn't asking them to. When I hung up, I felt something strange. Relief. Not the dramatic kind. The quiet kind that settles in when you finally say no and mean it. I was still sitting there when a notification popped up on my phone. $2,000 withdrawn from your account. My blood went cold. I opened my banking app, the joint savings account, the one my parents insisted we open years ago for emergencies. $2,000 gone. A text came in right after. From my mom. "Thanks for helping us out, sweetie. We'll pay you back when we can." Attached was a photo of my dad handing her a brand new iPhone. My hands clenched so hard my phone creaked. After everything. After calling me a failure. After trying to take my house. They stole from me. I called her immediately. She answered like nothing was wrong. Hi, honey. Give me my money back. A pause, then a sigh. Don't be like that. We needed it, and you have plenty. It wasn't yours to take. She switched into that calm, reasonable tone she always used when she was about to ignore everything I said. We raised you. We sacrificed so much. Can't you just help us a little? You didn't ask, I said. You took it, she scoffed. And what would you have said if we asked? I didn't hesitate. No. Exactly, she said, like she'd won the argument. So what's the difference? My chest burned. That's not how this works. Give it back. We can't. It's gone. I felt something in me shut off. Not anger, not sadness, clarity. All right, I said. She went quiet. All right, what? All right, keep it. Silence. Then she said she was glad I finally understood. I smiled. I do. Then I hung up. I closed the joint account, blocked her number, blocked my dad, blocked Adam. I sat there in the quiet, waiting to feel regret. It never came. $2,000 was gone, but so was their access to my life. It was the best money I ever spent. The silence after I blocked them felt unreal at first, like standing in a room after a fire alarm stops screaming. I kept waiting for something else to happen, for another shoe to drop, for guilt to show up and do its usual work. Instead, the days passed quietly. I went to work. I slept through the night. I cooked in my own kitchen without bracing for a call that would pull me back into someone else's crisis. It felt wrong only because I wasn't used to peace. That didn't stop them from trying new angles. When they couldn't reach me directly, they went sideways. Jake texted from a number I didn't recognize, pretending to check in before slipping in accusations about how I'd gone too far. I didn't reply. My aunt left a voicemail saying she was disappointed and that families should forgive each other. I deleted it without listening all the way through. Every message followed the same pattern. No one asked if I was okay. They only asked why I wasn't fixing things. The most revealing call came late one night from my dad's number, which I hadn't blocked yet because part of me wanted proof I was doing the right thing. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't yell. He sounded tired, almost reasonable, which was somehow worse. He said I didn't have to like what happened, but I needed to accept it. He said parents make sacrifices, children repay them, and I was being selfish for breaking that cycle. He ended by saying I'd regret this when I needed family and no one showed up. I listened to that message twice, then I blocked the number. What finally settled it wasn't their anger. It was how quickly they reframed theft as help and entitlement as love. The joint account incident wasn't a mistake. It was confirmation. They believed my money was theirs by default, that boundaries were optional, and that my role in the family was permanent unless I physically removed myself from it. Adam tried one last time a few days later. He showed up at my door without warning, standing on the porch like he still had some authority left. I didn't let him in. We talked through the door like strangers. He said Mom hadn't slept. Dad wasn't eating. They were embarrassed. He said neighbors were asking questions. I asked him why that was my responsibility. He didn't have an answer. He just repeated that family doesn't abandon family. I told him family also doesn't drain someone dry and call it love. I told him I wasn't abandoning anyone. I was stepping out of a system that only worked when I stayed quiet. He stared at the door for a long moment, then said he hoped I was happy. I said I was learning how to be. He left without another word. That night, I sat on my back deck and thought about how strange it was that the moment I stopped being useful, I became dangerous. How quickly affection turned into accusation. How conditional everything had been. I didn't feel victorious. I felt settled. I'd lost access to people who only valued me for what I provided, and in return, I'd gained control over my own life. I knew they'd keep telling their version of the story, that I was cruel, ungrateful, heartless. I couldn't stop that. What I could stop was funding it. Blood didn't mean access. Not anymore. The days that followed were quieter than I ever thought my life could be. Not empty, not lonely, just quiet in a way that let me hear my own thoughts without interruption. I stopped checking my phone out of habit. I stopped bracing for accusations. I started noticing small things, like how good coffee tasted when I wasn't rushing, or how my house sounded at night when no one else's problems were echoing through it. I realized how much of my energy had been spent anticipating their needs, predicting their reactions, managing their disappointment before it even arrived. Work became a place I could breathe. Friends noticed the change before I did. They said I seemed lighter, like I wasn't carrying something invisible anymore. I didn't explain it in detail. I just said I finally learned the difference between helping and being used. Therapy helped put words to what I'd lived with for years. My therapist said boundaries don't make you cruel. They reveal who was benefiting from your lack of them. That line stuck. It explained everything. The family noise didn't stop completely. It just lost its power. Adam sent one last message weeks later saying Mom was still upset and Dad felt betrayed. I read it once and didn't respond. Jake unfriended me online like that was supposed to hurt. It didn't. I wasn't watching anymore. The group chat went silent without me, and I imagined them scrambling to find a new target, a new solution, a new person to lean on. That wasn't my problem. Sometimes I thought about the $2,000, about how it disappeared without permission, how easily it was justified, how quickly it became my fault for noticing. For a moment, I felt the familiar pull of anger. Then I reframed it. That money bought me clarity. It bought me distance. It bought me a future where my success wasn't measured by how much I could give away. It was expensive, sure, but it was a one-time fee for permanent peace. I hosted friends in my backyard that summer. Real laughter, no tension, no performances. I sat on my deck watching the sun dip low, exactly like I'd imagined when I first bought the house. No one questioned how I afforded it. No one made jokes at my expense. No one expected anything from me except my company. That was new, and it was enough. I didn't cut off my family because I hated them. I did it because loving them meant losing myself. I chose myself instead. Not loudly, not dramatically, just finally, firmly, without apology. And for the first time in my life, that choice didn't feel selfish. It felt necessary. It felt right.